You have a federal minister, a military officer, and a single plot of land in Nigeria's capital. Now, on the surface, this looks like just another property dispute. But when you look deeper, and that's what we do here, this one confrontation becomes a raw, unfiltered test of power, of authority, and of the rule of law itself. Welcome to Africa Watch 360. Calm, clear, and focused news you can trust. We look deeper so you understand better.
You know, everything you really need to know about this whole firestorm is right there, in those 5 words. This isn't just a soldier talking back. No, this is a direct challenge, spoken out in the open, from one major pillar of the state to another. So, the question is, how on earth did we get to this point? To figure that out, we've got to break it down, piece by piece. So, here's how we're going to unpack this. First, we'll look at the actual confrontation itself. Then, we're going to hit rewind and ask, what's the story behind this land? After that, we'll explore why a single argument like this creates massive, real-world ripple effects. And finally, we'll get right to the heart of it, the fundamental clash of institutions this whole incident just puts on blast. Let's start right at the flashpoint.
Okay, so picture this. It all kicks off when the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, rolls up to a construction site with his entire convoy. He's there to deal with what his office sees as an illegal development. The one thing he probably didn't expect? To be blocked by armed soldiers.
Right there, in the heat of that moment, you can just feel the minister's frustration. I mean, from his point of view, he is the highest authority on land in the capital, and here he is being physically stopped from doing his job. So those words, as harsh as they are, they really reflect his attempt to assert that civilian authority over what he clearly sees as military impunity. And this is where the whole situation gets really complicated. The officer doesn't just refuse the order to shut up. He gives a reason. He says, "I am acting on an order." That one little phrase changes everything. This is no longer just insubordination. It's now a complex, messy institutional problem. See, in his mind, he isn't defying the state. He's following a lawful command from his own superiors.
So let's be crystal clear about the two positions clashing here. On one side, you have Minister Wike trying to shut down what he believes is an illegal construction site being protected by military muscle. On the other side, you have this officer who's insisting he's just following orders to guard a property that, and this is the kicker, he claims has all the legitimate paperwork. Paperwork that was supposedly issued by the minister's own ministry. That contradiction is the explosive core of this whole standoff. The viral video, that's the explosion. But the fuse for this thing was lit a long time before. To really get why this happened, we need to go back. We need to trace the steps that led a powerful minister and a duty-bound military officer to this public showdown. It's a story all about paperwork, power, and perception.
Now, before we go any further, we have to talk about this one document, the Certificate of Occupancy, or C of O. In Nigeria, this piece of paper is everything. It is the government's official stamp, the ultimate proof that you own a piece of land. Without it, you own nothing. With it, you should be totally secure. This entire fight, it all comes down to the validity of the C of O for this land.
This timeline really lays out the escalation perfectly. From what's been reported, a former Army general starts building. FCT officials show up to stop the work, saying the documents aren't right. So what happens? The owners send soldiers to guard the site. And then you get that unbelievable claim from the officer on the ground that all their approvals came directly from the FCT ministry. That apparent contradiction is exactly what brings Minister Wike to the scene himself, setting the stage for the whole viral clash.
Let me put this another way, just to show how strange this situation is. It's like your local city planning chief trying to stop construction on a new tower, but he gets blocked by security guards who then pull out a building permit that was signed and approved by his own office. It's a classic catch-22. It raises some serious questions about what's going on inside the system itself. Is this a simple mistake, or is it something, well, something else?
All right, so it was a dramatic public fight. But why does it really matter beyond the headlines? Well, because this isn't just about one plot of land in Abuja. This standoff is a symptom of much deeper issues, and its ripple effects, they can touch everything from the economy to national security.
Just think about the fallout here. First, there's public trust. When regular people see a top government minister and a soldier arguing on the street, they start asking, so who's actually in charge here? It just chips away at the authority of both sides. Then there's investor confidence. I mean, if a government-issued title deed can be so aggressively disputed right in the nation's capital, how safe is any investment anywhere? It sends a chill through the entire market. Third, the rule of law itself gets blurry when you can't tell who has the final say. And finally, let's be real, the image of armed soldiers facing off with a minister's security team, that sends a very powerful and direct signal of instability.
And that's the bottom line. This one incident, this single argument, it acts like a stress test on the entire system. It exposes the hidden fault lines in the country's governance, showing everyone just how well, or how poorly, its most powerful institutions can handle a crisis.
And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important layer of this whole thing. This wasn't just a clash between two stubborn people. No, this was a clash between two fundamental principles that are supposed to work together, but in this case were put on a direct collision course. See, on one hand, you have the principle of civilian supremacy. In any healthy democracy, the elected government has authority over the military. It's absolutely essential. Minister Wike represents this principle. But on the other hand, you have the military chain of command. This says that a soldier must follow lawful orders from their superiors. It's the bedrock of military discipline. The officer was acting on that principle. Now, in a country like Nigeria, which has a long history of military rule, this tension is not just some academic debate. The public memory is long, which makes any challenge to civilian authority a really sensitive issue. The whole problem explodes when a lawful order from inside the military seems to contradict the authority of a civilian leader. It just plays into all those old fears.
And that leads us really to the central unanswered question that this whole incident throws right in our faces. In a moment like that, on a dusty plot of land, where does the minister's authority end and the officer's duty to his commander begin? The fact that there was no clear answer in that moment, well, that was the crisis.
So, as we reflect on all this, it's really important to look past the viral clip, past the shouting and the pointing fingers. This isn't really about Nyesom Wike versus one Navy officer. It's more like a real-world, unscripted lesson on the messy, complicated challenge of balancing civilian and military power. It's a tough conversation, but it's a vital one for any democracy to be having.
And when you zoom out from the immediate drama, you have to ask yourself, who are the other players here? Who really benefits when two major institutions clash like this in public? So the real question is, who is actually shaping the direction of this situation, and to what end?
And finally, let's bring it all the way back down to the ground. How does a spectacle like this affect the average person just trying to build a house or get a permit? When the rules seem to bend for the powerful, what does that mean for everybody else? And how does this shift affect the average household, the community, and the future people are trying to build? How do you see this whole thing? Drop your opinion in the comment section. I'm really curious to hear your take.
If this breakdown gave you clarity, remember to like, subscribe, and share. Let's continue the conversation.